Hi, welcome. Thanks for tuning in. So I'm Associate Professor Dr. Muhammad Razif Shahri from UC Bangsar Malaysia. So today we're talking about lifestyle approaches in the prevention of cancer. So in 2022, approximately 20 million cancer cases were newly diagnosed and 9.7 million people died from the disease worldwide. And by 2050, it is expected that the number of cancer cases is to increase to 35 million based solely on the projected population growth. So based on the 2022 GlobalCon report, lung cancer was the most frequently diagnosed cancer in Italy, and followed by cancers by the female breast, colorectal, prostate, and stomach cancer. So this heat map here showing age standardized rate were per 100,000 for incident for both sexes in 2022. So we can see that the highest ASR worldwide is in the Northern America and also in the area of China, Australia. All these are highly developed countries. And these are the most common site per country in terms of absolute number of incidents. And you can see that most are in pink in color, so it presents breast cancer in most countries. So with this growing global burden, prevention of cancer is one of the most significant public health challenges of the 21st century. So when we talk about exposures in our field, food and drink that we consume, our activity levels, and our weight, body weight are all influence our risk of cancer. So the WCRF-AICR has gathered evidences using systematic literature reviews on how our lifestyle make a difference and the things that we could do to reduce our risk of cancers. So in their report, the exposures were categorized according to whole grains, vegetables and fruits, meat, fish and dairy products, preservation and processing, non-alcoholic drinks, alcoholic drinks, and other dietary exposures, physical activities, body fatness, height and also birth weight, and finally about lactation. So let's dive into whole grains, vegetables and fruits. So these are foods from plant sources, which are grains or cereals, so wheat, rice, corn, millet, sorghum, barley, oats, and rye. And it includes pulses like beans, lentils, peas, and peanuts. And vegetables can be divided into starchy vegetables, which are potatoes, sweet potatoes, cassava, sago yam, taro, and also non-starchy vegetables like cruciferous, green leafy vegetables, carrots, meats, and lean vegetables. Aflatoxin can contaminate grains and pulses. Mycotoxin, such as which are produced by certain molds growing on agricultural crops. So molds are usually destroyed by cooking, but the toxin from the molds may remain. So all naturally occurring aflatoxin are classified as human carcinogens by the IARC. So what are the major findings regarding these whole grains, cereals, and so on? So there's a strong evidence that whole grains decrease the risk of colorectal cancer, and foods containing dietary fiber decrease the risk of colorectal cancer. Beta-carotene in foods or supplements is unlikely to have a substantial effect on the risk of prostate cancer. And foods contaminated by aflatoxin increase the risk of liver cancer. And foods preserved by salting, including preserved non-starchy vegetables, increase the risk of stomach cancer. So the recommendation is to eat a diet rich in whole grains, vegetables, fruits, and beans. Dietary goal is to consume a diet that provides at least 30 grams per day of fiber from food. This is somewhat higher from the recommendation from the recommended nutrient intake formulation. Include foods containing whole grains, non-starchy vegetables, fruits, pulses, such as beans and lentils in most meals. And to eat a diet high in all types of plant foods, including at least 5 portions of servings, at least 400 grams of a variety of non-starchy vegetables and fruits every day. So if you eat starchy roots and tubers and staple foods, eat non-starchy vegetables, fruits, and pulses regularly too, if possible. So what should we be eating? Should be eating non-starchy vegetables and fruits of different colors, non-starchy roots and tubers like carrots, artichokes, celery, sweet, and turnips, and whole grains like brown rice, wheat, oats, barley, and rye. So let's move on to meat, fish, and dairy products. So these are animal foods to describe foods of animal origin, animal flesh itself, for example, meat, fish, and poultry, and foods that are produced by animals, example like eggs, as well as dairy products such as milk and their products. So animal foods are generally a good source of protein, but the fat content varies according to specific species from which they are derived. And dairy products are also a good source of calcium. Animal foods such as meat and fish may be processed before consumption by smoking, curing, salting, or adding preservatives. And meat and fish are also often cooked using a very high temperatures during frying, grilling, or barbecuing. And this may affect the chemical composition as well as the nutritional value of animal foods. In Malaysia, we also cook our meat and fish with coconut milk. So these are the major findings for meat, fish, and poultry and eggs. There's a strong evidence that consuming red meat increases the risk of colorectal cancer, and processed meat increases the risk of colorectal also. Cantonese-style salted fish also increase the risk of nasopharyngeal cancer, and dairy products decrease the risk of colorectal cancer. So what is the recommendation on this? Limit consumption of red and processed meat, and eat no more than moderate amounts of red meat such as beef, pork, and lamb. Eat little, if any, processed meat. The dietary goal is, if you eat red meat, limit consumption to no more than about 3 portions per week. So this 3 portions is equivalent to about 350 to 500 gram cooked weight in a week. And consume very little, if any, processed meat. So this recommendation is not to completely avoid eating meat. Meat can also be a valuable source of nutrients, particularly protein, iron, zinc, vitamin B12. Preservation and processing of food. So processed meat generally refers to meats, usually red meats, that have been preserved by salting, curing, fermentation, smoking, or other processes to enhance the flavor or improve preservation. Example of processed meat are ham, salami, bacon, pastrami, and sausages. Salting is a traditional method of preserving raw fish, including in Malaysia. Cantonese-style salted fish is characterized by using less salt and a higher degree of fermentation during the drying processes than the fish preserved or salted by other meats. So some traditional diets still include substantial amount of salt preserved food, including salted meat, fish, vegetables, and sometimes also fruits. So what are the major findings on this? There is a strong evidence that consuming processed meat increases the risk of colorectal cancer, and Cantonese-style salted fish increases the risk of nasopharyngeal cancer. Foods preserved by salting increases the risk of stomach cancer. The recommendation is for people who eat meat, recommendation is to eat little, if any, processed meat. Dietary goal is to consume very little, if any, processed meat. And limiting processed food in high in fat, starches, or sugars also can control the calorie intake. The dietary goal is to limit consumption of processed food high in fat, starches, or sugars, including fast food and many pre-prepared dishes, snacks, bakery foods and desserts, and also confectionery like candies. Let's look at non-alcoholic drinks. So the agriculture, mining, and industrial practice can contaminate water with arsenic. Okay? And arsenic can also occur naturally in water due to natural geological deposits of volcanic activity. And there's a drink in South America which is called mate, which is an infusion brewed using boiling water of herbal tea and is drunk almost exclusively in parts of South America. And this is also a drink, a non-alcoholic drink that is found to cause to affect cancer risk. Coffee and tea are the two most commonly consumed hot drinks, and there's various different methods of preparing coffee depending on the culture and personal preference. Milk and sugary or sweetened drinks mostly covered in other subheadings. So what is the major findings? There is a strong evidence that arsenic in drinking water increases the risk of lung cancer, bladder cancer, and also skin cancer. And mate, as drunk, scalding hot in the traditional style in South America, increases the risk of esophageal squamous cell carcinoma. While coffee was found to decrease the risk of liver cancer and also endometrial cancer. So the recommendation is there is no recommendation made about coffee, as there are still too many unanswered questions. Coffee, we know that it's rich in antioxidant, but the preparation of coffee, sometimes with milk, sugar, sweetened condensed milk, and so on, might increase risk. A global recommendation about consumption of mate has not been made. This is consumed only in a specific part of the world. And there is also no global recommendation for arsenic in drinking water, as individuals do not have the power to control whether or not the local water supply is contaminated. So we cannot say to people or recommend to people, don't drink water, right? So water contaminated with arsenic should not be consumed. Alcoholic drinks. So harmful alcohol consumption has been linked to more than 200 diseases and injury conditions, including cirrhosis, infectious disease, cardiovascular disease, early dementia, and cancer. So the worldwide consumption of alcoholic drinks in 2016 was equal to 6.4 liters of pure alcohol ethanol in the form of ethanol per person aged 15 years or older. This is equivalent to about 1 alcoholic drink per day. There is a strong evidence that consuming alcoholic drinks increases the risk of mouth, pharynx, larynx cancer, esophageal cancer, and breast cancer. 2 or more alcoholic drinks a day, that is 30 grams or more, increases the risk of colorectal cancer. 3 or more alcoholic drinks a day, 45 grams or more, increases the risk of stomach cancer and liver cancer. And up to 2 alcoholic drinks a day, up to 30 grams, decreases the risk of kidney cancer. So what is the recommendation? So for cancer prevention, it's best not to drink alcohol. And if you do consume alcoholic drinks, do not exceed the national guidelines. The evidence shows that alcoholic drinks of all types have a similar impact on cancer risk. And the important factor is the amount of the alcohol or ethanol being consumed. Even small amounts of alcoholic drinks can increase the risk of several types of cancer, as have been shown in the previous slide. And there is no threshold of alcohol consumption below which cancer risk does not increase, at least for some cancers. Let's look at other dietary exposures. So other dietary exposures that we can look at is carbohydrate, fats, and proteins. We can also look at glycemic index and glycemic load, and in terms of vitamins, minerals, and trace elements. So what are the major findings? There's a strong evidence that the greater glycemic loads of the diet increases the risk of endometrial cancer. And consuming high-dose beta-carotene supplements increases the risk of lung cancer in people who smoke or used to smoke tobacco. So consuming beta-carotene in foods or supplement is unlikely to have substantial impact on the risk of prostate cancer. So this now was on the supplements. Okay? So consuming beta-carotenes in supplements is unlikely to have substantial impact on the risk of skin cancer. And consuming calcium supplements decreases the risk of colorectal cancer. So the recommendation is to maintain a healthy weight, to be physically active and eat a healthy diet. And it's best to eat a healthy diet rather than rely on dietary supplements to protect against cancer. Because it was found that high-dose dietary supplements might increase the risk of cancer and are not recommended for cancer prevention, where we aim to meet nutritional needs through diet. So the WCRF come up with 10 cancer prevention recommendations. First one is be a healthy weight, be physically active, eat a diet rich in whole grains, vegetables, fruits, and beans, limit consumption of fast food and other processed food high in fat, starches, or sugar, limit consumption of red and processed meat, limit consumption of sugar-sweetened beverages, limit alcohol consumption, do not use supplements for cancer prevention, and for mothers, breastfeed baby can, and after a cancer diagnosis, follow the same recommendation if you can. So this recommendation is for cancer prevention and also for cancer survivors, to prevent them to get the cancer recurrence. So let's move on to look at what are the nutritional needs during cancer treatment. So the main recommendation during cancer treatment is first, to increase calorie and protein intake. Number two, to modify diet to help reduce the treatment side effects. And number three is to practice a low bacteria or neutropenic diet. So these are the three main recommendations during cancer treatment. So how to increase protein and calorie intake? So you can increase protein and calorie intake by increasing the frequency of the meals. And we can also increase protein and calorie by preparing foods that are preferred by the patients and plan the types of foods to be eaten. So these are some recommendations for a high protein food intake. In terms of milk, the recommendation is to add skim milk to beverages and to use full cream milk or skim milk when making smoothies. For cheese, you can eat biscuits with cheese and add cheese to sandwiches. You can also coat bread with egg or egg wash or dip in beaten egg before cooking. And this can increase the protein intake from diet. You can also add slices of chicken or fish to fried rice, fried noodles, noodle soup, or rice porridges. For beans, legumes, and lentils, you can add legumes to sauces and also dishes. And we can also add almonds or cashews to ice creams and beverages, and eat a variety of nuts and snacks. So these are recommendations to increase the protein intake or have a high protein food intake. And these are recommendations for high calorie intake. Okay? You can add butter or margarine to white rice, fried rice, stir-fried vegetables and pastas. You can also add milk to the ice cream, pudding, or fruit juice drinks. In Malaysia, we have coconut jam, so we can add kaya or coconut jam to bread that has been spread with jam. And we can also add syrup or cordial to plain water. So this will increase the calorie of the beverages and also of the breads. We can also add dried fruits to ice cream or pudding, or we can eat as it is, as a snack. And we can also serve a variety of fried foods and dishes such as fried rice, fried noodles, fried vermicelli or bihun, fried chicken, fried fish, and fried eggs to increase the calorie intake. So these are dietary modifications that can be done during treatment. And mostly the dietary modifications are only for a short period of time. And dietary modification mostly are aimed at reducing the side effects that's being experienced by the patients And sometimes it will involve changes in food choices, appetite, sense of taste, food texture, or even because of weight loss of the patients. So these are the aspects of dietary intake changes during cancer treatment. In terms of calories, so we can recommend foods or drinks high in calories. In terms of texture, we can recommend soft, crunchy, crumbly, or smooth texture. In terms of taste, we can reduce salt, add some flavor, and reduce bitterness. And in terms of temperature, we can use serve food at room temperature, or even you can use cold or hot, depending on the preferences of the patients. So let's look at low bacteria diet. So during cancer treatment, patients should be on low bacteria diet. Food and drinks must be thoroughly cooked to kill bacteria and microorganisms found in raw and fresh foods. So all foods must be thoroughly cooked. It's also important to reduce bacteria and microbial contact through proper food preparation, purchasing, storage, and also when you are eating out. So these are some of the dietary recommendations for a low bacteria diet. So when you're dealing with rice, bread, and noodles, the recommendation is to consume it without raw garnishes like various leafy greens, herbs, vegetables, grated coconuts, and raw onions. So sometimes in Malaysia, we use raw garnishes to decorate our foods. So these are not allowed in the low bacteria diet. For milk and dairy products, we recommend to consume pasteurized milk. And protein foods, for chicken or fish being grilled or baked in an electric oven, or grilled or roasted chicken and fish dishes like ikan bakar or ayam pecik is recommended. Grilled fish, ikan bakar sauce must be fully cooked without shrimp paste. So, and also eggs should be fully cooked, such as boiled or fried eggs. Okay. So we don't allow half-baked eggs, and then sauces that we whip out raw, and then shrimp paste which are not cooked, and so on. In terms of dessert, you should not use raw grated coconut in the traditional cakes and desserts, as these are the sources of bacteria. For fruits and vegetables, okay, vegetables should be cooked by frying, boiling, steaming, or baking using an electric oven. And choose foods with skins, such as apples, kiwis, oranges, bananas, papayas, and dragon fruit, because their flesh is protected from the soil. So when you wanted to serve this kind of foods to patients, you must peel the skins before serving them. Avoid fruits with exposed flesh, such as grapes. You cannot peel it's quite taxing to peel the grapes, strawberries, guavas, and also star fruits. Okay? Unless you can peel the skin, so it's a big no in low bacteria diet. And chili and sambal should also be prepared with chili, onion, tomatoes, and tamarind slices, and fully cooked without shrimp paste, which is belacan. For beverages, consume drinks from bottles or cans, and drink freshly made fruit juice, which is prepared at home. Because if you consume those prepared away from home, you're not sure how they cut the fruits and vegetables, whether it's fresh or not, and then the use of ice in preparing the juice and so on. And for iced beverages such as tea, coffee, or iced chocolate drinks can be consumed if there is no doubt about the water source used for the ice itself. So that's on the low bacteria diet. And these are the foods that should be reduced or avoided during cancer treatment. Processed meat, smoked food, preserved food, and salty food, and also alcoholic beverages. Sounds similar because it's same food that is being recommended, not recommended for cancer prevention. So processed mode is processed meat are sausages, burger patties, nuggets, pepperoni, and salami. Smoked food is smoked fish or meat. Preserved food like preserved fish, eggs, vegetables, and fruits. Salty foods. In Malaysia, we have pudu, cenchalok, shrimp paste, belacan, salted fish, salted eggs, and alcoholic beverages. So now let's look at what are the nutrition-related challenges during the treatments. So during treatment of cancer treatment, especially chemotherapy and radiotherapy, side effects like constipation, diarrhea, mouth pain, mouth ulcers, sore throat, and difficulties swallowing, dry mouth or thick saliva, nausea and vomiting, changes in taste sensation is common among patients. So we will look at the ways to overcome constipation problems. So the practice is to drink plenty of water, at least 3 liters per day, and ensure your diet contains enough vegetables and fruits, fiber, because fiber simulates bowel movements. And to avoid foods such as cruciferous vegetables like cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, pumpkins, beans, legumes, cheese, milk, and carbonated drinks, because they can cause bloating and discomfort. So if the patient is having a constipation problem, these are the things that you should avoid. Avoid drinking large amount of fluid quickly at one time, as this can also trigger a reaction in the bladder where you have frequent urination. It is also recommended to drink plenty of fluids to prevent dehydration, such as plain water, lightly sweetened cordial drinks, flavored fruit juice, to overcome diarrhea problems. So it's recommended to eat foods low in insoluble fiber, such as peeled fruits, like watermelons and apples, and also low residue foods like white rice, white bread, yellow noodles, rice, vermicelli, bihun, potatoes, and also bananas. Consume foods that are soapy or broth-based, which are basically steamed, non-greasy, and non-spicy. And these are the things to avoid. Avoid insoluble fiber, okay, as this stimulates the bowels during diarrhea. Examples include green leafy vegetables and fruits eaten with skin, like zeti fruits such as papaya, whole grain products like whole grain bread, high fiber cereals, wholemeal biscuits, brown rice, beans, legumes, and seeds. And we should avoid caffeinated drinks, carbonated drinks, dairy-based drinks, fruit juices with seeds, and beverages high in sugar if you have a diarrhea. So this slide is showing ways to overcome dry mouth or thick saliva. So the practice is to drink water frequently throughout the day and sip water in between meals to help with chewing and swallowing. It is also recommended to eat soft textured foods like rice porridge, noodle soup, various types of broth to avoid injuring the inside of the mouth. This is when you have a dry mouth. And choose foods that can be dipped in drinks or gravy to soften them before you consume it. And avoid hot, spicy like asam pedas, masak lemak bercili, and sour foods or drinks, example like citrus fruits and fruit juices. And avoid sucking on ice or hard candies, as they are very sharp and hard, and which can injure the dry and sensitive inner mouth. And this slide here is showing the ways to overcome mouth pain, ulcers, sore throat, and difficulty swallowing. So the practice is to spray the inside of the mouth or rinse with mouthwash before eating. This can temporarily numb the mouth and make eating easier. It's also recommended to drink water frequently throughout the day to help keep the mouth moist. And it's recommended to use a straw when drinking. We should also drink water alongside food to aid in chewing and swallowing, and consume food at a warm or cool temperature, because hot food can irritate the inside of the mouth. It's also recommended for patients to eat soft and soupy foods when they have mouth pain, ulcers, sore throat, and difficulty in swallowing. And if soft food are not available, you can dip the food in the drinks or pour gravy over it to soften food. Cut foods into smaller pieces for easier consumption, and blend foods using a blender for patients who have difficulty swallowing. So if nutritional intake is still inadequate, so it is recommended to take high-calorie nutritional drinks like Ensure Gold, Enerca Plus, Nutrient Optimum, Pro-Tro, and other products. And things to avoid is avoid hard, coarse, crunchy, and dry foods such as plain biscuits, chips, crackers, fried chicken, or guava, and avoid sour, salty, and spicy foods as they are strong in flavors and can irritate and sting the inside of the mouth. So if a patient has nausea and vomiting, we usually recommend them, if they have sensitive to cooking smell, so identify the order that trigger the nausea. Try cooling the food first to reduce the aroma. Can also suggest to choose food that are mild in flavor, low in salt and sourness, not spicy, and not heavily seasoned. And we always tell our patients to eat small amounts frequently. If vomiting occurs, increase intake of plain water and clear foods like chicken soup, fruit juices, isotonic drinks, and cordial drinks. And we recommend the patients to maintain personal hygiene, change pillowcases and bed sheets frequently to remove lingering body odors, and ensure good air circulation in the bedroom. And this will help to overcome the nausea and vomiting. Things to avoid is strong odors such as masak tempoyak, fermented fish like perkasam, salted fish. Avoid strong smelling foods like jackfruit, cempedak, or durian. Avoid oily, fatty, and fried foods that can cause nausea. But if each patient's tolerance varies, so they should try to find which food is suitable for them. And avoid eating in the bedroom. So this slide is showing us ways to overcome changes in taste sensation. So changes in taste sensation might be in the form of bitter taste, metal taste, salty taste, sour taste, and smell sensation. So ways to overcome it for bitter taste is avoid food and drinks that can cause a bitter taste, such as bitter melon, vegetable stems, broccoli, cauliflower, chocolate-flavored fruits, and also drinks, including chocolate cake and chocolate drinks, and coffee. If there is a changes in taste sensation like metal taste, avoid various types of red meat, beef, mutton, and animal internal organs like bones, liver, tripe, lungs, stomach, and tongue. For salty taste, avoid salty foods such as anchovies, salted fish, fermented fish, and avoid adding salt in cooking. And if there's if they don't like sour taste, then avoid foods with sour taste such as masak-asam, tom yum soup, and sour foods. For smell sensation, eat foods at warm or cool temperature, and avoid strong smelling foods such as durian, jackfruit, cempedak, or even garlic. So I think that's all for nutrition, how to overcome side effects using nutritional remedies. So, so throughout the lecture today, we have learned about the incidence of cancer. We have seen how cancer is being widespread throughout the world. And we have seen systematic literature review by WCRF on what are the types of foods that can increase the risk of cancer, decrease the risk of cancer. Next, we went through and look at the nutritional challenges during cancer treatment. And we also look at on foods recommendation during cancer treatment, especially on tryptophan diet, on how to increase calorie and how to increase protein intake. So that is all from me today. And if you could find this book, it's written in Malay. It will be a good source to understand more on nutrition for cancer patients. This is being published by CanWork, an NGO working with survivors of cancer. That's all from me. Thank you very much.